Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. Can everybody hear okay? Just gonna pull up the chat to make sure. Yes, great. Thank you for your immediate feedback. Much appreciated. So I am Lindsey Simon from ALA's Communications and Marketing Office, which administers Library Card Sign-Up Month every September. We're going to kick things off today for a few minutes of discussion about some of the free Library Card Sign-Up Month tools that ALA has to offer. Then after that, we'll give the floor to today's presenter, Amber McNamara, who works as Community Relations Manager at Cedar Rapids Public Library and has some fascinating insights about their data-driven library card sign-up efforts. I have just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. So for this webinar, only our presenters will have microphone access, but we do encourage you to chime in with questions by typing in into the Q&A box. You can find it by moving your cursor to the bottom of the Zoom window where you should see a little Q&A icon, and we'll definitely leave time to answer your questions at the end of today's session. Also, if you have any technical issues like suddenly losing sound or the visual, you can go ahead and communicate that through the chat box, and our staff will try to sort things out for you as soon as possible. Finally, I also wanted to mention that the session will be recorded. We're going to send you the video this week, as well as some links to other resources that we're going to be talking about today. All right, so now to get into some of the free tools from ALA. So we have the Library Card Sign-Up Month Toolkit, which is available at the link here. You do have to create an account to access the materials, but it's super easy to do, and it allows you to download all kinds of free public awareness goodies for Library Card Sign-Up Month and beyond. A lot of our tools for this year feature characters from Toy Story 4 who are serving as the 2019 Library Card Sign-Up Month honorary chairs. We hope that you'll find some content that you like in the toolkit, but of course, it's totally up to you and your library if you want your local Library Card Sign-Up Month efforts to focus on Toy Story or not. So here on this slide, you can see some of our print tools. On the left is a PSA graphic that you can use in local media or just print it out and use it as a flyer. And then on the right, we're really excited about our library card and key tag designs that you can have printed by whatever vendor your library uses for library cards. There are these versions here, but we also have versions that have white space at the bottom if you're interested in putting in your library website, name, or logo, or anything like that. And now let's look at some of our digital graphics. We have versions optimized for different social networks, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as different web ad spaces. As you can see on the right, we also have the tools translated into Spanish, so you can go ahead and download those if that's useful for your library's audience. Here are just a few more digital graphics that we wanted to highlight. Disney Pixar was extremely generous in allowing us to create some adorable character-focused content for libraries to use on social media. Buzz and Woody are here and very excited about libraries. But it's not just graphics that we offer. I also wanted to mention that we have some text-based tools that you can download and adapt for your Library Card Sign-Up Month efforts. We have sample social media copy, PSA scripts, a proclamation, and a press release, all available in both English and Spanish. All of us at ALA are super excited to be able to offer these freebies, but if you want even more Library Card Sign-Up Month materials featuring the Toy Story crew, there's also some awesome merchandise available for purchase in the ALA store. So as you can see here, you can buy the official poster on the left, but we also have mini posters, bookmarks, and stickers featuring some of the individual characters from Toy Story. So these are some of the highlights of what ALA has to offer for Library Card Sign-Up Month. But we're really excited to see what celebrations and promotions that libraries like yours come up with. So if you are posting throughout September on social media, please don't forget to use the hashtag Library Card Sign-Up so that everyone can see what you're up to. We also encourage you to join our ALA Connect group and use it to discuss ideas and strategies with other library workers. Anyone can join even if you're not an ALA member, as long as you create a free account. These links, don't worry about writing them down. We'll also be sending those out via email after the session. Finally, I really want to emphasize that you can email campaign@ala.org at any time if you have a question, request, feedback, or especially if you have a success story. My colleagues and I are always excited to hear from you at any time. So now I'm going to turn things over to Amber, and after that, we'll open things up for your questions. Amber, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise. And now we'll switch PowerPoints. You can take it away.
Awesome. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you all today. Like she said, my name is Amber McNamara, and I am the Community Relations Manager at the Cedar Rapids Public Library in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I've been with the library for about 10 years, and National Library Card Sign Up Month is one of my favorite months of the year because I think it's a really great opportunity for libraries across the country to talk about the value of a public library and what a library card means. That's why we do this every year, right? So I'm excited to talk about some opportunities that we've used in Cedar Rapids. National Library Card Sign Up Month is a time when ALA and libraries across the country are coming together to remind parents and caregivers, educators, students, and really everyone in the community that a library card is the first step towards academic success and lifelong learning. But like I said, it's also a great opportunity to have that community discussion about why a library matters, what a library does, and how important access is in your community to everything that a library has to offer. So where do we start? I want to start today with steps to preparing for September. Everything in our house starts with a plan. Anytime we're doing a project, no matter what it is, we want to have a marketing plan that has these 6 initiatives in it. We want to make sure that we're writing down what we're doing and we're really intentional about our work so that we can refine our efforts and be really focused and get the best results. The first step is establishing our goal. So what are you trying to achieve? Each community is going to be different. And you really need to look around and ask yourself, what is the specific thing that's going to help us reach either our strategic goals or connect with some initiatives that your library is already doing? And how can we fit National Library Card Sign Up Month into that goal? And the next thing is establishing a budget. Every good plan has to have a budget. Really be thinking about what it is that you can afford to spend on National Library Card Sign Up Month. Think about where you can find resources for free, who will give you in-kind support, and be sure that you're including your staff time and resources in your budget as well. They're your most expensive, but your best resource, and you need to account for their time and the work that they're doing. The next thing that I'd include is a situational analysis. And this is really an opportunity to talk about who you're competing with in the community for people's time and for their energy. To think about what's your current political situation. Are you about to go for a levy vote perhaps? Are you in a situation where a lot of people have already signed up for library cards in your community, or do you have a big gap to fill? And that's going to help drive all of your planning as you think about who you're trying to reach in September. And so that takes us to target audience. It's really important to be intentional about who you're trying to connect with when you think about your goal for September. When I started in libraries 10 years ago, I would ask my coworkers and my peers, okay, who are our audience for the library? Who are we trying to reach? And the response every time was always everyone. And while I agree that the library is here for everyone, and we'd love it if everybody joined us and got a library card, that's really not a good marketing audience. We really need to be more targeted and refined. So think about that goal and what you're trying to do. Think about the bigger picture of the library and where it exists in the community and what your strategic goals are, and help that define that target audience for you. And when you do that, you can really put your efforts into specific energies and like really drive home those tactics so that you're meeting your overall goal. Tactics really are the things that you're going to do. So those are your outreach efforts. Those are the programs that you're doing. That's every single thing that you're actually going to do in the month of September. And each one of those should be tied to a specific measurable goal. And you want to evaluate. And I'm going to say this a lot today, but evaluation is one of the most important parts of this plan. Did you do what you wanted to do? Did you accomplish your goal? Were you as successful as you wanted to be? Maybe some things worked and some things didn't. And it's okay to have things not work, but we want to be able to say we can change this or do it differently next year so that we can improve every year. And it also helps us to be able to report out at the end of the month. One of the biggest things that we can do is tell our staff and our board and our city managers and everybody who has a stake in the library, this is what we did in September. This is how successful we were. And that way they have more buy-in when you go to do programs like this next year. When we talk about setting a goal, you really want to be smart with your goal. So this is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. Establishing SMART goals is going to be the best way that you can make sure that you're going to achieve what you want to achieve in September. This should be really based on what your community needs and what your goals are overall as a library. Specific goals, you really want to be sure that you're writing down exactly what you want to do. Don't be vague. Don't say we want to reach everyone, because that'll never be something you can do. Instead, be really specific in what you're setting up for yourself. It should be measurable. You need to be able to find a way to measure success, so there should be a number to apply to it. For example, if I know that I have 58,000 card holders in the community and our community is 130,000 people, I can set a number of increased card holders based on that information. Make sure that it's achievable. I don't want to say I want every single member of the community to have a library card, because there's probably no way I can make that number actually happen. But I can say I'm going to sign up 2,000 families in the month of September, and that will be achievable for me based on what we're doing. Relevant. Is it important to what we're doing right now? Is the goal, like I said, tied back to your strategic plan or to the overall goals of your library? And is it timely with the other work that you're doing? And can you achieve it in September? Knowing your audience is one of the most important parts of your plan. Libraries are fascinating and great because we have access to so much data. It's one of the most, one of the greatest things about working in a library is having access to all that information. So we really need to be looking at our data to tell us what to do and where to go. Who already has a library card in our community? And where are we missing people? Are there specific populations you aren't reaching? For example, we know in our community that we have a goal of reaching people who have barriers to access. We want to be able to go into those communities that are a little bit lower income, a little bit more densely populated, and see if our data can drive us into specific neighborhoods and sign up people who really need access more than others. So I'm showing you a map right here. This is one of the ways in which we're using our data to tell us where to go. So our library participates in Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, which is an amazing program. The way it works is that anybody in Cedar Rapids can sign up if they have children ages 0 to 5, and their kids will get a book mailed to their house every month until they turn 5 years old. So if they sign up at birth, they end up with a library of 60 books in their home. It's a great program. And it's also a wonderful way for us to have a little bit of engagement with people at a different level. So we've been lucky enough to partner with a lot of our community service groups and our social service agencies in the area, and they're signing families up when they come in to receive services. So kids and families are signing up for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library like crazy. But what we also know is that doesn't necessarily mean that they have a library card. But what we're able to do is take the data from our ILS, removing the names, just the addresses, and compare that to the list of addresses we have for people who've signed up for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. And we can see, if we reverse that, who has signed up for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library but does not have a library card. And that's exactly what you see here. So we have been able to map exactly where those households are, where we know there's kids in the house who are under 5 years old, and these parents have not signed up for a library card. Nobody in the household has one. So this can tell us specifically which neighborhoods to go to, which parks to show up at, maybe which community centers to go to, and it's really going to drive the work that we're doing. And the great thing about this is all of this is free. We just use Google. We go to google.com/mymaps, and it will let you create your own maps, input your own data into the Google map system, and then you can create this very usable data center as well. So really simple to do. Another thing that you can do is map out the census data that you have in your community. There's free services online that will do this. You can put in your zip code and actually see the different demographics of your community. And that can help overlay with the data that you already have to show you exactly which areas maybe have the lowest income and the highest density, or whatever your goal is. It'll help identify those population pockets within your community and really drive where you want to go. Using your tactics is a big part of your plan. So how are you going to make it work in September? And what are some things that you're going to do once you've identified what your goal is and what your audience is? You need to start thinking about the specific things that you're going to do. Now, you might have more than one audience. For example, we might be trying to reach that early childhood family, but we're also maybe trying to reach elementary age children. So you might have different tactics for different audiences, and that's okay. Also, don't be afraid to take a risk. Do something a little bit different. Try something maybe you've never done before, and go places you've never gone, because you're going to reach different people that way. I always like to think of it as thinking like a candidate, that when we are trying to get people to sign up for a library card, you are out there, pounding the pavement, just like candidates are. I live in Iowa, so we're constantly inundated with politics, especially this time of year. And so, it's a great opportunity for us to think about how the library puts itself out there, how we're representing ourselves in the community, and how we're showing up and being present so that people can talk to us, ask us questions, and we can get them access to the services that they need. And the other thing I would say is use the tools that are available. So we're really lucky that we have some really good access to tools thanks to ALA. Just like Lindsey talked about earlier, and these are some of my favorite ones. I just want to go through these really quickly because I think they're really good opportunities for any community. The first is the press release. So one of your audiences absolutely needs to be the media. It's really important that you let the media know what you're doing in September and why. You want them to tell your story for you. You want them to show up where you're going to be. And the best way you can do this is they've got this great sample press release, and you can use that, modify it to fit your community, add in all of those great events that you're doing so that people know exactly where you're going to be, and send that out. I always send out my press releases a couple weeks in advance and then hit them again the week before. Really get in there with the media and let them know, because it's really important for them to help you share your story. Take advantage of the social media aspect. We have a huge amount of support and following on our Facebook page and Instagram. We use those every day. And September is no different. And it's really great that ALA has these awesome graphics that you can just take right there that are already formatted and ready to go for the different platforms that you might be using. So take advantage of those. They even have, like she said, the social media scripts. So if you're not sure exactly what to say, absolutely take advantage of those as well. Library cards are really fun. If you can do that in your community, I think having specific library cards for September is a lot of fun. We have patrons that want to come in and get special library cards kind of on a regular basis because they like collecting them. And they come in and show us ones that they've had in the past. And that's a really fun thing for them to be able to do. Posters, the posters that ALA has are perfect for taking out in the community and putting up in places where maybe you're going to go do library card sign up. We also utilize them inside the library as well. The proclamation, and this might be one of my favorite things. So I think the greatest thing about a proclamation is getting your city government, so your mayor, your city council, we have a city manager form of government, so getting the city manager to stand in front of our entire city council and the media and talk about how important the library is. Anytime we can get those people on record talking about the library in a positive way, that's great advocacy. And that's part of what this month is all about. So take advantage of that. Have your city show their support by doing a proclamation. And PSAs, having these at the ready is great. Oftentimes we can get free time on our local radio stations for PSAs. So don't be afraid to ask for that from your local media. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. We just don't ask often enough. So be sure to do that. And then having the English and Spanish versions of these is also really wonderful, especially if that's an audience that your library is trying to reach. So take advantage of those. The next thing I want to do is talk about some of the specific tactics and tools that we've either tried or are planning to try here in Cedar Rapids. And the first one I want to talk about is using your library card as an added value at local businesses. This is something that libraries do and that we've done, and it's such a great opportunity because it gives you the chance to have a different conversation with the business members in your town. So it gets you out there talking to different businesses. You want to partner with them and ask them to offer a discount or a free service or something of value to people who come in and show their library card during the month of September. It's a great chance for you to get them on board as a library champion, which is something that we always want to do. And it's also a great opportunity for our library card holders to start engaging with their businesses. So we're doing some great cross promotion, which is great because then everybody wins. Make it really easy for the business to be a part of this. Be sure that you create posters. I've seen window clings used as well, so that when someone goes to that particular business, they can identify it as a library card discount location. Share who's working with you all over your social media, on your website. Make sure that you let the media know, because again, that's going to extend that reach even more. As much cross promotion as you can do, the better. And afterwards, at the end of the month, be sure to find out from those businesses how it went. Survey them and ask, did you get a lot of new customers? Did you see a lot of library cards? Anytime you can get them with pictures of people with their library cards, that's even better. Another fun thing that I love to do are yard signs. So again, I live in Iowa, and around this time of year, between now and election time, we see lots of yard signs because candidates know that people want to proclaim their support in this way so that people next to them, their neighbors, people driving by, know who they care about and what they support. So we do that for libraries too. What you're seeing here, we did a campaign 2 years ago with Libraries Transform, and we created yard signs for that. People could pick up there were 3 different versions, pick them up and put them in their yards. And it's a wonderful way for us to see that message about libraries popping up kind of all through our community. And there's nothing better than driving through town and being in a neighborhood that's not yours and seeing somebody has a yard sign up supporting the library. That's just the coolest. This goes straight to that acting like a candidate that I was talking about too. And it doesn't mean that you need to use Libraries Transform. That's a great campaign for something like this, but it's also an opportunity in September to use National Library Card Sign Up Month as a yard sign. Be creative, come up with your own ideas. I will tell you, because I think this is interesting, that the yard sign that people loved the most that we did was one that said access equals opportunity. And that really speaks right to what National Library Card Sign Up Month means to us. So I think that's great. Pop-up libraries. We know that we're not the only ones doing this, but this is maybe the coolest thing that we do. We really love popping up where people are and surprising them and bringing our talented librarians out into the community. And this is something that we will do all month long in September, but not just then. We do it the rest of the year too. Be creative with your pop-up library. This is ours. You're seeing my great staff member here, Christine, and she's popped up in a local cafeteria. And our pop-up library was really easy to assemble and really cheap. It's made out of PVC pipe, some vinyl banners, and a lot of Velcro. And so not heavy, not hard to carry anywhere. And I think we spent about $150 on it. Really great. And so we send our librarians out into the community anywhere that people are gathering. And the locations are going to vary depending on what our specific goal is for the time frame that we're doing it. So you can pop up in lots of different places. Business lunchrooms like this one where people are coming in for lunch, a downtown plaza. We've done that where we've been in the downtown business district during, heavy foot traffic areas. Maybe a neighborhood gathering spot like a neighborhood center. Splash pads are great. Bike trails are also really cool. People riding by on their bikes are going to stop and ask you what's going on. Pools or beaches. anywhere that people are gathering or where they are naturally going or where they're waiting in line are great opportunities to pop up. So be specific on where you're going based on who your target audience is, and think about what you're taking with you. So we don't necessarily have our pop-up libraries include library materials. We send our librarians out with a computer and Wi-Fi so that they can sign people up for library cards, but also so that they can show off the digital resources that people might not be familiar with. We also arm them with everything they need right there to get people their library cards so they can sign up, have the card, and go. And then all kinds of other information pamphlets and things like that. But we have a little kit put together that we can just pop up and leave and take anywhere we want to go at any given time. So we try to make it as easy as possible so that we can do it whenever we really want to. And the response from the public is really great. The other thing I'd say is make sure you're letting people know on social media, hey, we're popping up in this park at 10 a.m. Stop by and see us. And you can even incorporate yard signs into this. This is something new that we're doing this year. When we pop up, we're going to have yard signs that we will put up in the area where we will be that say pop-up library this way, very much like you would do if you were having a garage sale and wanted to drive traffic to your house for that. So if you think of it like that, we're trying to engage people at the moment that we are in their neighborhood and have them say, well, what's this? I need to see what this is. I need to go check that out, and drive as much traffic as we can to our pop-up library. The next thing I'll talk about is door to door. Now, I know this sounds kind of scary, and it was to us the first time we did it, but it's really not nearly as bad as you might think. It's actually a lot of fun. It's a great way to engage with people who aren't your library users. So in this door-to-door plan, you're going to use your data to tell you exactly where to go. You can use your mapping system, just like I talked about earlier, to show you where specifically your households are that already have a library card so that you avoid those households and aren't knocking on their doors. But you know, you can arm your staff. You want to take your staff, and we use volunteers. We put them together. It's a great way to engage those passionate volunteers who want a chance to really do something good for the library. Pair them together with staff and send people out in groups. We never send people out alone. We always do a big training all at once where we get everybody together and we say, this is how you do it. Here's the script on what you're going to say when you knock on the door. And here's the answers to these questions if you have something that you think people will frequently ask. And then we have our staff and our volunteers role play with each other, which feels kind of funny, but is actually a great way to get yourself more comfortable with the interactions that you'll have at the doors. And then we go out together. So we take a couple of days and we pick the areas we want to go, and we go out in groups. And we take a wonderful toolkit that we've put together, and I'm showing it to you here. You can see we have this Friends of the Library bag. You want to make sure that the people going door to door are easily identifiable as library either staff or volunteers, because that's going to increase that trust factor when you knock on the door, and then people will answer it more. So make sure that they have everything they need in this bag. We make sure that staff have t-shirts they're wearing, as well as volunteers. And of course, they go out with maps, both of the neighborhood that they're walking, and also maps that they can give people to show how close their nearest library is. We also have everything they need to sign up for a library card right there on the spot. So we have the paper forms that they can fill out, but we also have technology that we take with us. So a little tablet and a little scanner that we can use to sign people up so they're in our system right away. And the second we leave, they can start using our digital content. We want to be able to also leave something behind if we can't catch the person at the door. So we've created little leave behind cards that just say, sorry, we missed you. Here's why we were here today. We want to make sure that you know about this great resource that you pay for as a taxpayer. And so let us know if we can help you, and here's how you get a hold of us. So be sure that you've created a leave behind, including you can use a door hanger format. You can actually buy those at any office supply store. And the door hangers are great leave behinds because they hang right on the door. You don't even have to slip it in the screen door. So think about what you can say to people and what your message should be, but be sure to leave something behind when you're there. The very first time that we did this, we had some wonderful results. We had 106 conversations with people, knocked on 180 doors, left behind 74 cards, and made 36 library cards. And so this was done over 2 days. And we had groups going out together and hitting whole areas of town, and it was wonderful. We've done it since then. This was just the first time, but we do it in smaller groups now. So we'll go out in groups of 4 or 8. But the conversations that you have with people range from, oh, I've never had a library card, tell me about it, to I had a library card, but I haven't used it in 10 years. Can I still use it? Or, you know, a lot of times you're going to run into people who maybe can't leave their house very often. Maybe they're homebound. And so do they know about our books by mail program? Great opportunity to promote that program as well. So even if you're knocking on doors and somebody already has a library card, you get to have a great conversation with your community about why a library card matters and what the library is doing. You can promote those programs they might not know about, and just answer any questions that they might have. Another opportunity, especially in September, are school partnerships. But one of the coolest things that we've seen done and that we're working really hard on is getting a library card added to your school supply list. Everybody knows if you have kids, that school supply list is like the Bible as you go into school, right? Like you need to make sure that you get everything on the list. Well, when we can add library card to the list, it's going to increase parents' awareness of the value and the importance of getting those kids signed up for a library card. Another opportunity is getting to those school functions. Don't be afraid to reach out to the school and ask if you can show up. And this could be everything from showing up at literacy and family nights if they have those in your area, or maybe it's a football game. You know, I know in a lot of our smaller communities especially, but in Cedar Rapids too, people go to those football games. That's like the biggest thing that happens every week. If you can show up there and sign people up for library cards, that's a great opportunity to hit that audience that maybe you don't hit anywhere else. Another idea, go to the cafeteria at the schools, the middle schools, the high schools, sign people up there, sign those kids up. Do something like say to these kids, hey, we'll give you some cool swag if you bring a friend who doesn't have a library card and you get them signed up as well. Those are awesome opportunities. Other things that are happening in our area, we have a lot of schools now that have established food banks within them, and those happen on a regular basis. Get there when they have the food banks open and the families coming in, because that's another opportunity to capture those maybe lower income families right when they're coming in and asking for help already. And when you're partnered with the school, they see you as a trusted resource. So especially for us with some of our immigrant families, being able to show up at the food bank in school means that we are someone that these parents can trust. And so that's huge for us. And also, don't be afraid to engage your cheerleaders. You need to take advantage of the opportunity that September provides to get the people who are most engaged with you on board and supporting this and being your champions. They already love you, right? So think about your staff, volunteers, your board members, your friends and your foundation members if you have those. They're your core supporters. They're your biggest champions. So what can you do to engage with them during the month of September? And how can they help you move the needle to reach your goal? So for staff, for example, think about staff incentives. Try to get creative. I know for us, we can't give money as an incentive. I can't give staff a cash payday because they signed up the most people for library cards. So I have to be a little more creative. So we can do things like say that whoever signs up people for the most people for library cards gets to have lunch with the director. That's kind of a cool thing, not something that gets to happen very often. And it's an easy thing that we can do that won't cost us a bunch of money. But think about what would motivate your staff to get engaged with signing people up. Think about getting them out in the community too, if you can, because they're going to be the best brand ambassadors that you have. Your volunteers, they're another wonderfully engaged group of people. We have a great volunteer program here at Cedar Rapids, and our volunteers are always looking for ways to have more of an impact. So arm them with the tools, give them the key messages about National Library Card Sign-Up Month and why it matters, and ask them where you should go. Your volunteers, if they're volunteering with you, there's a good chance they're volunteering other places. And there's a good chance they are engaged with other areas of their community. So ask them about, what they're involved in and where you should be. They're going to connect you with church groups, with neighborhood associations. So they're a great resource for you to help drive maybe where you're going to go in your community. Your board, they're engaged with you already. They show up every month to help you with policy and make sure that you're managing your library effectively. You need to be sure to arm them with key messages about the month of September. Tell them what you're doing so that they can share your story with the people in the community who know that they're a part of the library board, who ask them what's going on at the library. You want them to be their biggest champions. And you want them to be out telling everybody, hey, you need to sign up for a library card. And the same with your friends and foundation. Have them endorse the library. Have them, sign up, do library card sign up at your friends' book sales if they're doing them during the month of September, really all year long. If the foundation's doing events, talk about how you can show up there. But more than anything, just make sure that they are armed with the knowledge of what you're doing so that they can share your story with their friends and their reach as well. That's just going to help you get more and more of a global reach. And tell your story. I think I've said this, but I'm going to keep saying it. Tell people that you're coming. Make sure that they know that you're going to show up in their neighborhood on a certain day, or that you're going to be at their child's school. Make sure that you're using all of your channels so that they're getting the message over and over again. And make sure the media knows. You can hit them repeatedly with the message, and it might feel redundant to you, but it's so helpful in getting that story out there. The more often you hit them with the message, the more likely it is that they're going to hear it and really retain it. So be sure that every time you talk about National Library Card Sign Up Month and doing library card sign up, that you're talking about the why behind it. Make sure that people understand that this isn't about you getting the most numbers, but it's about you making sure that the most members of your community have access to your resources as possible. And that's really what September is all about. And then finally, evaluate. Evaluation really is the biggest part of this. We have to, at the end of this in October, look back and say, okay, this worked and this didn't. This helped us be successful and achieve our goal, but we really need to work on improving this aspect of it. Maybe we didn't hit the right location for our audiences. Maybe our goal was too high, or we way overshot it and we were way more successful than we thought. So we need to set a higher goal. But you need to be able to sit down and really identify the things that worked for you and that didn't. Too often, I think in libraries, at least for us, we get so busy and we're going through so many things and everybody is so overworked that it's really easy to go right past this step and not stop and evaluate and look back and say, this is what we did and what we need to change. But this is your most effective tool to be able to do better next year and really reach the audience that you want to reach in the future. And that's all I've got for you today, but I am very happy to answer questions if anybody has them.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Amber. That was really, I'm at ALA, I don't work at a library, but I found that super inspiring. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on the Q&A. Everyone should feel very much encouraged to chime in with your questions, whether that's from Amber or us ALA folks. And it looks like we have one question already. Amber, can you share what were the main talking points or questions asked during the pop-up libraries?
Yeah, so I think the number one question we got was, what do you do other than books? A lot of people are engaged, and this is just growing. I'm sure you're seeing it at your libraries. The number of people utilizing our digital resources, so downloadable audiobooks, for example, are just flying off our shelves. But a lot of people that we engage with at the pop-up libraries had no idea that we had so many ebooks and audiobooks, downloadable movies, all of that digital content. They really didn't know about that. So that was the number one thing that we talked to people about. The second thing that I think we talked to people about were some of the databases that we use. Databases, they're such an underutilized resource for us, and I'm thinking this is probably true in other libraries, but the general public doesn't necessarily have an understanding of all of the great databases that you have available and what they could do for you. So when we start talking about things like lynda.com and Reference USA and some of the other databases that we offer, their eyes get big and they start to go, oh, I didn't think about that. And just talking about those resources that people didn't know about. I also really love, we tried to do this thing where we had people say, like, ask us anything, the librarians are in, and we did this whole peanuts thing. We really wanted to test the reference staff and have some fun with that a little bit, which I think is a little bit of the engagement factor that we got. So we encouraged people to come up with fun reference questions for us and have our librarians answer them on the spot. So having access to technology was vital to be able to do that. But we had a couple hot spots, and we're able to use those and took a laptop out, and it worked really well.
Awesome. Everyone, please keep the questions coming. We have around 20 minutes to speak with you all, so super curious to hear what you're wondering about. In the meantime, Amber, we have another question for you. You talked about yard signs. Who paid for those?
That's a great question. So we paid for those out of our marketing budget when we did them the first time. But there's a couple ways that this can be done. We went to, I'll tell you, we used an online store, that justyardsigns.com, if you can believe it, to purchase them. And we started with 500 and got rid of all of them within about a week and a half. So people, they sort of flew out our doors. And we have a small marketing budget, but we used our advertising budget to pay for that. But I've seen other places where they're doing them and they'll either sell them as a fundraiser. So you could sell them for a couple of bucks and maybe have your foundation or your friends do that as a way to pay for it and offset the costs. Or the other thing that I would do if I wanted to do it and I didn't have the budget to do it would be to ask for the foundation to help support that.
Great. So we have another question. Our vendor for library cards does not have kids cards. Where can I get fun kids library cards? So I'll chime in here. So as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, it was at the very beginning, so I don't know if everyone was here for that. But ALA has some free library card designs featuring Toy Story 4 characters, our honorary chairs for Library Card Sign Up Month 2019. All you have to do to use them is visit our toolkit. We'll send a link to that in a follow-up after the webinar. And you can send us a quick agreement form just so we have all the legal stuff covered, and then you can go ahead and get them printed. Other than that, I'm not sure. I don't know, Amber, not to put you on the spot, but if you know any other vendors that you'd like to chime in with, feel free. But definitely start with those Toy Story tools.
Yeah, I think that's the best option. I don't know of any vendors in particular that do specific designs like that. So I love that you guys provide options for that. We have the ability to design our own in-house, which is great. But I do think that library cards are like a really fun way to engage with people. We get people who come in all the time who want to show us their library cards. And so, there's opportunity there too to do some social media stuff where you get people to show your library card off. And so, yeah, I think if you can find a way to do kids cards, what a great opportunity. And the Toy Story 4 stuff is adorable, so it fits right in.
Awesome. So we're still waiting to get, we have another question here. Did the competition between staff really encourage staff? It sounds like a fun idea to try.
Yeah, incentive programs are always tough. We try really hard not to make staff be too competitive with each other. And there's a lot of dynamics at work, especially because we have some staff who are full-time and some who are 28 hours, some who are 19. So, I think you just have to be creative in how you do it. We definitely saw that staff were more engaged because there was a little bit of an incentive and they played a lot more. It's easy for me to get playful in my job because I get to interact with the community outside the library a little bit more than they do, but we want them to feel like they're having fun. And so coming up with creative ways to incentivize them is one way that you can do that. And they talked a lot more about library card sign up because we had an incentive. And so, we've only done the incentive 1 month, so last September, so we haven't seen how it compares if we do a different incentive, but I can tell you that it definitely increased our staff engagement anecdotally.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber. I feel like we're throwing the questions at you and you're doing great with these. Another question, any strategies for getting businesses to participate in a discount program?
Yeah, a business owner cares about what's in it for them. We always have some great partners who, really are just engaged with the library because they feel like it's the right thing to do. So there's definitely that, but I think you have to be able to show value to the business as well. And so that's why I think it's really important to make it super, super easy for them. So when you go knock on their door, you want to be able to have like a poster in front of you that shows what you're going to put up in their window, or the window cling if you can do those, because those are really great. But give them the tools to make it super easy, and then tell them all of the ways that you are going to promote their business during the month of September so that they feel like they're getting that benefit out of it. So, you're going to be listed on our website. We're going to put up a poster in all of our locations, listing you out. We're going to do a bookmark that has all of the businesses on it. Just be sure that you're sharing the story of what's in it for them, because that, I think, is the biggest buy-in. And when you pair that with the fact that what libraries do is just such an important part of the community, and you tell that story, I think it's hard for businesses to say no. So, be creative too. The other thing I would say is help them identify what their discount can be. So if you can be creative that way, that makes it all the easier for them. And I really believe the easier you can make it on them, the more likely they are to join in and participate.
Awesome. Another question. Did you find that there was a better time of day to do the door-to-door visits?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes. So it depends on who you're trying whose door you're trying to knock on. But we definitely found that weekends were bad, and the best time to go is right around like the 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock time frame in our communities, so like if you can hit people when families are getting home from work, that's probably ideal because they're more likely to be still up and about and answer the door. You try not to hit people at dinner time, but I'll tell you, for us, we didn't have a lot of complaints when we knocked on people's doors at like 5, 6 o'clock. So we go for that early afternoon, early evening, or late afternoon, early evening time frame. And avoid when you know that there's something big going on in the community. So if it's Friday night football games, don't go knocking on the door on Friday night. Think about what your community is generally doing in those times, and help that drive when you go. But it really depends on who you're trying to reach. If you're aiming for seniors, for example, mornings, really any morning of the week is going to work really well.
Great. A sort of related question. As you were making home visits and interacting with the community, what did you find was the biggest barrier for people to sign up for a library card?
That's a really good question. I think the biggest barrier that we ran into were people who felt like they just didn't have time to use the library. I think in general, that's our biggest barrier. So when we knock on doors and they would do that kind of, yeah, we like the library, but I'm really busy and I don't need you kind of thing, which I think can happen, especially when people don't understand the breadth of resources that we offer. And so it was a great chance for us to talk about all of the things that are available without having to step foot in the building. It's also great that you can give them a library card right there on site that they can then take inside and immediately start downloading content, so they can see right away, oh, wow, there really is a lot of stuff here that I didn't know about. But that for us was the biggest barrier.
Great. Another question. How do you retain people when it comes to renewing their library card?
That's another great question. I think this is that's like a completely different set of tactics. So one of the things that we are working on internally in terms of retention is making sure that we're communicating within specific time periods to our library card holders all year long. So making sure that we are sending messages either via email, or we're actually doing some print mail as well. I'm a big fan of sending things to people in the mail because I like getting things other than just bills in the mail. And so, find those opportunities to engage with your card holders, especially when you've seen that they haven't used their library card in 3 months. I think after 90 days, we really run into that sort of cliff effect where people stop engaging altogether. So we try to reach them at every 30 days, every 60 days, and every 90 days. It is easier to retain a library card holder than it is to get a new one. So when we look at our numbers, if we're seeing that we've got people who are close to the edge, we want to try to find a way to communicate with them about the stuff that they're maybe missing or could be using that they haven't utilized. And, you know, just think about also when people are coming through your doors, how are you engaging with them so they're checking out more material? That's the other thing that we're trying to do as well.
Great. We have a question from a school librarian. Always good to see different library types getting involved. So this one says, as an elementary librarian, I do library card sign up every other year. This year I plan to give a Toy Story prize or Smarties, the candy, when they show me their library card or sign up. My local library works with me. When an entire class has a card, I will give some type of prize to the whole class. Any other ideas to get more signups?
Those are brilliant. I love that. I think incentivizing them to come in is a great way to do it. And I also really love this idea of celebrating the class when the whole class has a library card. I would just, the only other thing I would say is encourage your schools and the rest of your community to bring the library in when there's opportunities. You know, for the school librarians, if you're working with your public libraries, many of us are just waiting to be asked. And so be sure that libraries are asking the schools, but also in reverse, if you see an opportunity and you think the library could be there and signing kids up, let us know.
Awesome. Another question. Have you ever experienced challenges getting your library's leadership or other key stakeholders on board with your library card sign up month outreach plans? Do you have any tips for making the case to your library higher ups?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate that most of the directors that I've reported to have been really supportive and big risk takers, which I think is helpful for me. So I know I can get a little creative and outside the box, and they're going to support the work I do. But I will say that I always have to have a good argument. So I think the most important thing you can do is think about the why behind the work that you're doing and be able to put that whole plan together before you go to them and say, we're going to do all this crazy stuff. Be sure that they can see you've been really intentional about what you're doing and that your goal for the month of September is really going to help them reach their overall strategic goal. When you can paint a picture and show them that this work leads to that larger goal, they're going to be far more impressed and more likely to buy in. And then it's all about that report out at the end so that you can show them this is what we did and this is the impact that it had. And, you know, next year the story will be easier to tell and the buy-in will be bigger.
Great. Another question. So looking back to your first year working on library card sign up month, is there anything you wish you had known before getting started or something that sort of surprised you about getting into the weeds of library card sign up month?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think the thing that I didn't utilize enough would be the tools that ALA puts out there, quite honestly. You know, having the support already there so that some of this stuff is done for me is great. So that was maybe something that it took me a while to figure out. You know, the other thing I would say is that what we do in libraries, people love us. Libraries have the best brand anywhere, right? So the story that we tell to people is such a positive one that when I go out and do library card sign up or when we go out and knock on doors, they're our friends. And so I feel super comfortable now, and maybe I didn't when I first started, but going out and showing up anywhere I want to show up and really being a part of those community activities and knocking on those doors, because I know that, you know, the majority of the time people are excited to talk to you. So don't be afraid to, you know, take that leap outside your buildings and get out there in the community and really engage with them, because there's a really good chance that what they're going to say is, oh, we love the library and we're so glad you're here.
Great. Okay, another question more for ALA, or I guess me. How can I make the free tools in ALA's toolkit my own or specific to my library? So a few different things I would highlight. The graphics that we have are print graphics, the PSAs and the library cards. We have versions of those with a white space at the bottom. where you're encouraged to add your library's name, logo, your website, any other information that you want people to have when they look at the awesome graphic or when they pull the library card out of their wallet. We also have all these text tools that I've been talking about. And if you're short on time or you think they work really well, you're totally welcome to just like plug your library name into the press release or the social media post and go for it. But you're also welcome to tweak and adapt and change the wording depending on your particular library. There are a lot of different ways you could have fun with this locally. You could, if there are any big local events, maybe if they're like a festival that your library does in September or the day that your local school starts, you could do a tweet or a newsletter tying it into signing up for a library card. You could use local statistics or other things that are relevant to your community. So feel free, you're totally encouraged to play around with things. Don't feel like you have to just stick to the stock content that ALA has created. Okay, we have another question for Amber, and then I think we might have time for like one more after that. This one says, when you go into communities, do you require any type of identification to sign up for the library card?
It depends on where we are. So when we do door to door, no, because we're at your door. So we know who you are because we're standing on your front door. So that makes it really easy. When we go, say out to like a festival or into a neighborhood where we're signing up people at a pop-up library, we're able to give them a temporary card on the spot. So it gives them access to the digital content. They have to come in within 30 days to get the full library card. And we've seen really high retention with that. So it works really well. The other thing that I've seen done and that we haven't done yet, but I really want to do is have that library card postcard go out as sort of validation of address when a person signs up so that they don't have to bring in a piece of mail, but we're validating that for them and we're sending them a welcome message within that first 30 days. And so it does sort of dual purpose. But it depends on your library's policies. We worked really hard to try and get out of our own way. So how do we identify the policies within our library that prevent users from getting access? So I would encourage you to think about that before you go out. How can you make it as easy as possible for people to get that library card? Think about what's the highest risk versus the highest value, and how can you remove those barriers so that you get people the resources and the access that they need.
Great. That looks like, I think, pretty much all the questions that we have for today. And we're a few minutes till the hour, so we can start wrapping up. Thank you again so much to Amber for sharing so much of your insight. And of course, to everyone who joined us today and asked some really thought-provoking questions. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, later this week, you will receive a follow-up email from ALA with the video and some links to the resources that we've been talking about today. It'll also have a link to a brief feedback form about the webinar, and we'd be really grateful if you could take a few minutes to let us know about your thoughts so that we can develop future e-learning opportunities that are tailored for your public awareness needs. And once again, this will reiterate our ALA email address, campaign@ala.org, goes to me and my colleagues. So if you have a question that you didn't think to ask during the session, please feel free to reach out to us and we can be in touch. So thank you again, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.
Bye.